most of my viewers will probably recognize you for your portrayal as Ma in Little House on the Prairie. And I was wondering, how does it feel as an actress to be constantly reminded of a character you've played like 50 years ago?
Well, actually, Jean, I am not constantly reminded because where I live, very few people think about Little House on the Prairie at all.
Okay.
So it's only when I go out to public events where people are looking for seeing me, Ma, that I'm then recognized and treated like that wonderful character that I got to play. So it's not like that at all.
Okay. And did you know that in Europe the show is still very popular? I mean, it's basically each year on TV on like 2 or 3 channels. So
Yes, I do realize that it's just amazing the staying power that we've had.
Mhm. Yeah. Why do you think Little House and Ma left such a powerful footprint into the minds of so many people across the world?
Well, I think it's because of the power of family and community and the values that the show portrayed.
And do you think we can find that in the actual shows of those days?
What days?
Like all, the Netflix shows today, do you think that we can't find those values that were in Little House on the Prairie and that makes it so unique?
Well, I don't see many family shows now. And people who have families with young children at home tell me there isn't anything that compares with Little House. So I guess it's lucky that we have all these cable channels that the families can play Little House and other old-fashioned shows.
And I want to go back a little further in time and discuss the very beginning of your career and your passion for acting, because finding your path can be such a hard journey. I'm currently going through it right now. And I was wondering, how did you know that that was it, that acting was the thing you were meant to do?
Well, it was a calling for me. So once I let the calling come through my brain, I knew, and I could look back over my childhood and see how this little performer had been putting herself out there in dance programs and school plays and church plays and just making up plays all the time, so that it was very, very clear where I felt at home. And so then there was no turning back.
Do you remember having second thoughts or doubts?
Well, there were times during my career when things were hard and I didn't have work and I wished that I loved something else. Um, uh, but this was always my first love. So I think I was lucky. I feel for people who are not clear
Mhm.
about what they should do with their lives. In my own case, I was drawn from a very young age both to acting and to writing. So my dad said, well, just pursue both, see what happens. And so that's what I did in school. But by the time I was in college, it was clear this was acting for me. So I feel I was really lucky because then I was very certain about what I was doing, where I was pursuing, how I wanted to be trained, all that. And I was also lucky because I was exposed to some really wonderful artists when I was very young. And they showed me the values and they showed me the kind of work that I wanted to be able to do. And then I could look for how to get the training to be able to do that.
And before being cast as Ma in Little House, you've had some downs. And do you believe all of those downs kind of led you to your big break with Little House?
I have no idea. I mean, yes, if your Broadway debut closes after 5 days, it's very discouraging. And you think, oh, maybe this isn't meant to be. And yet that's the thing you know how to do, and you just keep on trying. So, destiny is a very strange thing.
Yeah.
I was called by an old friend to go and do an independent movie in California. And I thought, oh, this is great. I am going to work again. And I went out to California, and that movie fell through. And there I was broke. I had my boyfriend with me. I had my dog with me, and I was sleeping on my parents' couch. And I thought, whoa, I better go back to school, get a real job, something I can count on. And within about 2 months, I got Little House on the Prairie.
And you were at school at that time?
No, I had not even applied yet. I was figuring out, how will I go back to school? I've got to have some money. In those days, people didn't get student loans like they do now. And my parents had already helped me to go to college, so that was definitely out.
Okay.
So I thought, well, I know my friends who are working in television, they make more in a week than I made in a month in the theater. Maybe if I get some TV work, then I could pay for college, graduate school. So that was my plan.
Okay. So you weren't interested in doing TV at the beginning. It was more theater.
That's right.
Okay. And after your Little House years, you've pursued another dream of yours, which was to become a mother. Does portraying Ma for ages helped you to apprehend maternity at all?
I don't know. I mean, there's a big difference between acting the part of a mother and being a mother. And when people would come and pick up their kids who were working on the show, they would say to me, oh, you're such a wonderful mother. And I would think, I'm not a mother at all. You're picking up your kids, you're going to take them home, you're going to feed them, discipline them, help them with their homework, get them to bed on time. And so, no, I don't think so.
Have you watched the show with him?
With whom?
With your son?
Oh, no, my son, when he was little, I put the show on, and he burst into tears. So I think it confused him to see me over there on the screen. And so we just put it aside. And I thought, well, maybe someday he'll get interested. And then that day just never has come. No, I asked him about it once. I said, have you ever thought of, going back and looking at the series? And he said, oh, I did. And it was this raccoon, and it made me cry. He said, I don't want to watch it.
And, many people around the world find comfort in the show. Like my mom, she's a huge fan. She's going to freak out when she sees this interview. And they watch it over and over and over again. And eventually it kind of becomes part of their homes. And I was wondering, what's home for you? How would you define it?
Home. There's inside home and outside home. So inside home is having peace and quiet and feeling comfortable with my humanity,
Yeah.
And outside home is this place I live in and I love, and being in my garden. I noticed when I bathed last night that I've got all these places on my skin where the plants attacked me, and I hadn't even felt it, over the weekend. Yeah. For me, I noticed that I felt very at home in the theater.
Mm.
I still do. I did a play in Canada last summer, and it was like, back in my stable. I'm a horse running now. Yeah.
And it's 2 years ago you've released your memoir. And back then, how did you know that it was the right time for you to do this?
Oh, well, I had no idea when the right time was. It's just that it took me so long to write the book that I thought I could be proud of. And then it took a long time to find someone to represent it. And then I had to wait while people read it and then rejected it. And then finally, I decided, well, I'm getting so old. If I don't publish this thing, I will never see it. And so I went with this hybrid publisher here in Berkeley, where you pay some money, they have the expertise, and together you make this book. And that took another year. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes before the book hits a shelf,
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that the whole process took about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I would have liked it to be, 10 years ago, but that isn't how it worked out.
And how have you felt? Because it must be kind of weird to, writing about your past and going back all over your memories. Was it a joyful experience, but sometimes hard too?
Oh, yeah, it was everything. It was everything because there are naturally painful things in your life that you have to revisit. And you not only revisit them, but you want to revisit them in a deep enough way that it conveys what that experience was like for other people.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, this happened, then that happened. So I had a lot to do to learn about writing. I had to contact my inner feelings the same way you do in acting, in a way,
Mm-hmm.
In order to be present for it.
I saw that you started doing some personal appearances at Comic Cons. Why? What do you like the most about meeting the fans?
Well, it was, I never wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So for years, I just said, no, 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 no. But then when I brought out the book, I thought, I've got to get out there and sell my book. I went to so much trouble to write it, promote it, and I want people to read it. So I've now done 3 of those, and it's very, very sweet.
Mm.
I find the fans to be so sweet, and their appreciation of our work is so touching. And especially, what people say about Ma is so revealing for
Yeah.
me, because Ma is very, very special to them. And that's a payoff for me that I didn't expect, to find that out, that my work had really gone into people's hearts.
Yeah. Are you planning to do one in Europe, maybe?
If somebody invites me,
That would be great. I would bring my mom for sure.
oh, that would be great to meet you and your mom.
So the last question, I'm asking this question to every guest I have. If you could interview yourself, what question would you ask?
Ah, ah. Well, I would ask this double question. What are you most grateful for? And do you have any regrets? Those would be the two questions.
And what would be the answers?
Well, I'm most grateful that I got sober in my early 30s and turned my life around. Otherwise, I dare say I'd be dead. I'd certainly be locked up because it makes you crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fantastic. And because of that, I got to have my son. You know, I couldn't have trusted myself to have a child and be a parent if I had still been drinking. So those two things are completely tied together. And then when I think about regret, I have, because of the process that I've been through in getting sober and getting to know myself and doing a great deal of writing about things that I did regret, is that now I look at all my mistakes and all my shortcomings as part of my education and my growth. So those are things now that I can share with someone else.
Yeah, that's very inspiring.
Maybe to be of use to them, you know.